Okay, guys, let's get started. First of all, I wanted to say thank you. This is kind of weird. I'm looking at this TV screen. First of all, I want to say thank you to the Tails team for letting me show some bits and pieces and talk to you guys about the ever-prevalent subject that is flair. I'm coming from the Campari lab here in San Francisco. This is our house with Bulldog Gin. You can see over that right shoulder, very well displayed. Really today what was about was wanted to show you guys some tricks and some bits and pieces that you can use behind the bar, but actually more talk about the philosophy and what we think about flair in general in the world, and defining that, and really it's my passion, it's my love. A little bit about myself for those of you. This is weird, I'm getting like questions everywhere already, which is great. A little bit about myself. That weird noise that you're hearing, I'm actually English, not Australian. I've been living in the US now for about 6 years. Before that, I lived in Amsterdam, and I've been a professional bartender for a long time. I now work for the Bulldog Gin brand. Previously, I've been a brand ambassador for other brands, and flair was something that I did for a long time and got me to travel the world and see a lot of places. And yes, I was one of those juggling guys that traveled and did 5-minute shows. But what it taught me was a bunch of different transferable skills that can really help with guest interaction. It's about, going to a bar should be about fun, and it should be about enjoying yourself, and it should be about interacting with a guest and making their night. So questions. I mean, flair, define the word flair. When I started bartending 10 years ago, classic story, I was at university, needed to work and pay bills and make some money, pay bills, and I started working at essentially a TGI Fridays ripoff. Growing up in this world of being competitive, naturally I was quite competitive as well. I started doing tricks, and I remember the first flair competition I did, I messed up majorly. I took a strainer, I took a tin, and I shook the cocktail like this. Obviously, the result was not good. I didn't win that one. And went from there in terms of learning to be confident on stage and trying to create new things. I encountered people that worked at a place called the Roadhouse. If any of you guys are from the UK, you will know about this iconic place. It's almost like frozen in time. I was there a few months ago, and it never changes. It's the same faces, it's the same thing, and that's a good thing. It's just a mecca for the flair world. What you see on stage sometimes it doesn't even look human. What these guys can do these days. I'm glad I don't compete because I get smoked every time. But being at this place and going to a regular competition, it really started to refine the skills. And I think that one of the things that competitive flair bartending brings to regular bartending is, if you were to make an analogy, it would almost be like NASCAR or Formula One race car driving, in that most of the stuff that happens on a NASCAR track or a Formula One track doesn't really apply to driving your car to work. But some of the technology and some of the advancements that are made under those kind of pressure conditions and pushing each other to shave fractions of a second off a race time can translate to regular driving a car. So it can translate to driving a car. So things like ABS, things like airbags, seat belts, all this technology that came from pushing the boundaries. And I think that if you look at what flair bartenders do today on stage, yes, it has very little to do with regular service, but everything that they are doing is pushing the boundaries of what is possible in terms of using the instruments that you have behind the bar, and elements of that are definitely 100% transferable to regular service. And regular service nowadays is becoming more and more demanding as the guest is becoming more and more educated. They understand about spirits. They understand about service. They want to experience a good time out, and really part of that is being Flair. And Flair, by definition, my personal definition now, working in Las Vegas, working in the UK, working in Amsterdam, is about creating an experience for the guests. It doesn't have to be a 5-minute show. Never about that. There's terms that are thrown around working Flair. There's terms that are thrown around in terms of different tricks have different names or whatever. But in general, Flair should be seen as just part of regular service. If you have an element of Flair to what you do, then it's okay by me. It's okay by everyone. Everyone enjoys it, and it doesn't have to be trickery. It doesn't have to be a fun roll. It could be a joke. It could be just a level of engagement which people recognize you for. So kind of being remarkable, and it doesn't necessarily have to involve 5-minute shows of juggling. So that's it, preaching over. I wanted to show you guys some tricks, how to take those elements of competition Flair to the bar where you work. Nothing that I'm going to show you I own. I'm not going to break the sound barrier here in terms of skills. I'm not going to go nuts. I just want to show like little intricacies that you can do whilst making a drink. I'm going to make a very simple Negroni. Before I start, one thing that you guys should always consider, and it's again a big belief of mine, is always have your own tools. Don't rock up to a bar without your own stuff. You're a craftsman. You should have your own gear. So if you're learning to do these tricks, Flair isn't easy. Unfortunately, it never is, and it takes a lot of practice. But one of the shortcuts and the biggest tip I can give you is just use the same tools all the time. You'll get used to the weight of them, how they work, and just have those in your hand all the time, and it will become easier. The movements will become easier. So I'm going to make a quick drink for you guys. If you have any questions or you want me to break things down, that's cool. I'm looking into my computer screen. Some of the things might not work on some angles. So if you need me to re-show something, please just send me a comment. I'll do my best to read them and link up, and we can go from there. No one say anything. So the first thing I'm going to show you, and this is a very old school trick, but again, it's about very high impact moves with very little effort. Is a very simple napkin drop. Now, if you look at a standard beverage napkin, these are the nice weighted ones from Aperol. You'll see that it's folded in one corner. Let me just open that up. Now, this seems pretty straightforward. Everyone knows it's folded, but what you want to do is you want to take your thumb, put it along the crease so that the crease is away from you when you throw. So the first thing that hits the air is the crease. It's not the open side. If you throw this into the open side, the napkin will open up and it becomes uncontrollable. One of the things with Flair or any kind of tricks is the throwing part is easy, the catching part is hard. It seems simple, but it really is the case. So what you're looking for is a consistent, every time you throw it, you're looking for the same result. And that can be achieved by throwing again, taking the napkin and throwing into the crease. So you're going to flick it up and just rest it on the back of your hand. Now what will happen is when you spin it like a frisbee, it will come back to you and it's going to rest on the back of the hand. Don't go chasing it. Don't go looking for it. Just let it sit onto the back of the hand. You're going to turn your hand over and just drop. Now, there's also a psychology to this motion of having your hand open, in terms of if I do this, I'll be right with you. To a guest is like, well, that's a closed deal. I don't, it's a closed gesture. It's like, I don't have any control in the situation. If I do this and my hand is open, it means I'm ready to serve you. I'm ready to help you, whatever you need. It's a very open gesture. And you'll see this in general with Flair. It's about creating a space where the guest feels that you are engaged and you want to work with them. So a very simple technique. You can also get creative, drop it on your elbow, drop it on your arm. Same principles. What you're looking for is the consistency in the throw, and it's just like throwing a frisbee. You can drop it there. So let's leave that right there. The next trick I'm going to show you, now I'm going to make a drink in my tin. Normally this would be a mixing glass, but TSA, I don't trust them, so I'm not bringing my Carico Japanese glass with me every time I fly. I just flew in from Denver today. So I'm going to stir this in a tin. My next trick is with a jigger. Some of the stuff that I'm going to show you will involve free pour. Some of it won't. Some of it will use a jigger. But I just want to demonstrate some different techniques here. Take a jigger. This is called a jigger tap. And I just messed it up. It happens. So with this one, all you're going to do is you take your jigger. You see the small part, the big part. It doesn't matter which size. This one is you know, your Cocktail Kingdom standard 2 and 1 ounce. You can use the 3/4, whatever. The best thing you want to do is take whatever the smallest point is on the top. You're going to flip it to the outside of your hand. You're going to hit it with basically your finger, so you're kind of pointing, but with your, like, almost like a karate chop, I guess, onto the big part. Again, let's make this easy. Don't make it harder than it has to be. You're going to take the jigger on the outside, flick it with your same hand that you threw it, and just tap the large portion. It's going to spin into your left hand. If you're right or left-handed, you know, change the thing. So in this case, we're going to pour a nice ounce of the Bulldog Gin to make our Negroni. I'm then going to take another tin. Now, if I was making a drink for a regular patron, I wouldn't necessarily do all of these moves in one time. I would just use little pieces of it to break it up. So maybe the jigger tap is the only thing that I would do whilst preparing the string, and everything else would be a regular pour, because I don't want to slow down a service. When you're busy behind the bar, Flair can, by definition, of course, it slows down service, but it can also change the perception of someone's experience at the bar. So in a weird way, we can travel through time, in that you've probably all had it when a guest is at the bar and it's like, oh, I've been waiting 20 minutes for a drink. And like, well, we've only been open 10. How does that work? But people, if they're bored and they're not engaged, they start complaining and they start moaning about time. So we can also engage them with open gestures and doing little bits and pieces where they feel secure that you're going to get to them when it is, you know, their time. So they feel happy about it. Their time will go quicker. Maybe it involves you telling a joke or some sort of introduction to the person next to them. Things like that can help. So the next little move will be a tin roll. This is a very common, you'll see this behind a lot of bars. What you want to do is, with the tin, again, it's about learning your tools. You can see which one I'm using. I like these. They have a nice solid weight on the bottom. Some people use unweighted tins. Here's an example of that. What you want to do is find the middle of the tin, and if you want to roll it down any part of your body, whether it's your arm, your chest, or you can come up the other side of it, the principle is always the same. All you're going to do is you're going to throw it up in the air, very flat. So you want it to almost stay in the air like this, and you're going to give it some spin, some momentum to come through your body. So you're going to throw it over the back of your hand with some spin. So you want to practice like this. Once you get a consistent spin, so it's not oscillating in the air, so it's not doing this, it's not kind of all over the place, it's just a very consistent staying. You're going to use that spin to roll it down your arm. Now, every fiber in your body is going to want your right hand, in my case, or you can do it left-handed as well. Your right hand is going to want to grab this tin once it hits your arm. You have to kind of block that out and just be confident that it's going to come and cradle into your left hand. Now with your left hand, you're not grabbing it like you would just grab, you want it just to sit into your left hand. So when it comes down your arm, you're going to keep your arm straight. You don't even need to do it elevated, because if you do it elevated, it's going to travel really fast and make the catch harder. So you want to buy yourself a little bit of time. You're going to, I hope you're all doing this behind the screens here. My gin's getting warm. Just give it a little spin, and then along your arm and down there. Now you can get fancy as well. Use the weight of the tin. You can go behind your back and catch it if you feel confident. Those are a little bit advanced. You can also, same principle, come up behind your back and down your arm. But it's a very nice, simple movement. So from here, give it a little spin, down your arm, and you catch the tin. Key principle would be just, this is the most important movement. Forget about getting it down your arm. That will come when you generate the spin. And the catch is very much just have your left hand there, Crayo. If it goes wrong, you can trap it against your body. You can trap it against your back as well and recover. If you're behind the bar, one of the things that I was taught very early on is that every move should happen between these lines. So nothing happens in this direction or this direction. Same thing, I'm sure you've all heard the story, like you always put the glass, using a Boston glass, towards you. If it breaks, it goes over you. Emily's telling me they're practicing in the office. I can imagine the noise that's happening right now when the tins hit the floor. That's the noise. If you are, if you're shaking and it goes wrong, you don't want to go over your guests, and you certainly don't want to go your back bar. Maybe there's glassware and stuff here. We need to, shake in this direction. So if anything goes wrong with Flair, you don't want it in your ice, because your barback's coming with the grenadine. He's gonna you're gonna be out of service for a while. So when you do the roll or any Flair move, again with the Jigger, it came this way. With the tin, it comes across this way. Try not to do anything forward. There is one exception which we'll get to in a second, but that was one of the first moves I learned in the very beginning. The next little trick I'm going to show you is a hinge cut. Now I've seen this done by a few people. I think that one of the people that really inspired me to be a Flair guy was a friend of mine called Wayne Collins, and Wayne used to work at the iconic Roadhouse as well. He used to be, he used to be a Flair guy. A lot of the old school bartenders, although they probably won't, won't stand up and wear it with so much pride, and I hope that changes, is there used to be a lot of Flair guys, and being a Flair bartender on stage, it taught you how to be confident in front of people and be a showman. And being a bartender is about being on stage, so it kind of makes sense. So these guys worked in iconic places, but this is a very European cut, and I get asked a lot how to do this. It seems so natural, and it's very much this is the cut I'm talking about. I hope you can see on the camera, and I call it a hinge cut. I'm sure it has different Campari's good, different names, but really it's a two-part move. It looks like a single move, but there's actually a secret to this. I'm going to use this bottle here to break this down. It's a little bit of a cheeky move in that it's actually two movements in one. Let's leave that there. Let's just show you this. It's two movements in one. So with a pour spout, you want the pour spout going towards, if you're right-handed, it's going towards your left shoulder. And really, the first movement is this. This is all you're doing to stop. I don't know if you can see that from this camera angle. And your first movement is this. Really simple. You're going to go, and who is the best Flair bartender you've seen, and what market does the best Flair? Jesus, I think that Flair is such a personal thing. There's some amazing stuff that comes out of Russia. I've seen some of the Eastern European guys, Rusty and Marion Beak in, they have their place in the Gibson in London, and some of the things that how they work and how they flow is so unique and so great to see. But I think the original is still the best in terms of the mecca of Flair, and that's Vegas. So if you're looking for fun and engagement, go and see the guys at Carnival Court. Nobody does it better. I don't think there'll ever be another Carnival Court. So that answers that question. Thanks, Anne. So again, with this cut, very simple. You're going to go 90 degrees. Or sorry, 180 degrees, and then drop it down to 45 degrees, and it cuts. But really, all you're adding is a little finesse. Whenever you hold a bottle, it doesn't matter which bottle it is. Just take everything's okay. Use this grip. You don't need to hold it fast. You don't need to hold it here. Just hold it on the neck. Everything's okay. You're going to take it down to 90 degrees and then add a finesse. So when you put those two moves together, looks like that. A little bit of, you can also go really long with this as well. And it shouldn't spill. It has a nice kind of cut on it. One of the originals at this, there's two individuals, Stretch, and I think Jason Crawley does a really nice long pour as well. They'll go like full. I mean, they're both like 6 foot, so it looks pretty impressive. So that's the little hinge cut, the tin roll. I'm sure you've all got tins on the floor. I know I have. Jigger tap. Let's finish off this Negroni. This is the move that first got me into Flair. I quite like this this move because it brings back memories, but it breaks all the rules. It goes towards the guest, and you have to be a little bit careful. It's going to be a stall, then into a pour. Now, whenever you stall something, no matter where you put it on your body, there is a little cheeky tip in that if you look at the shoulder of the bottle, don't look at the top like you're balancing a broomstick. Don't look at the bottom because it's not going to move much, and you don't have enough time to react if it does. And when you put it on the back of your hand, you want to look for these 3 fingers here. See, mine are all busted and broken, and these knuckles here. When the bottle sits on there, essentially it's sitting between those 6 points. Little finger's not doing much. Ring finger's there to support. Your thumb's certainly not doing anything. Now, I remember when I first started learning this trick was it would hurt because the weight of the bottle would crack down on my knuckles and it would swell up. After a while, it's not about building a callus. It's not like playing guitar. What you want to do is cushion the blow. So every time the bottle lands, you go down and you go up. You should be, if you're practicing, put a bottle on the back of your hand. Some of you guys probably are way more advanced than this, but it's the same principle. If you have it on your elbow, look at the shoulder. Don't let it hit the bone on your elbow. When it's here, it doesn't matter. Principles are always the same. Look at the shoulder. It's the part that moves. It will give you the best indication of where things are going, and you can react quickest. If it's on your hand, do not let it crack into your knuckles because you're going to be done for the rest of the shift. So for the pour, I quite like this. This always brings a smile to my face. I'm going to flip the bottle forward. I'm going to catch it on the neck, and I'm going to pour. Like so. I think I just ruined my Negroni with a bad free pour. But principle the same every time. Let's drop it in here. So you're just going to catch it in the bottle, towards the neck. You have to be quite forceful on the pour. I'm spinning like an idiot here because I'm looking at the camera. Catch it on the shoulder. And there's a pour. Now this is the first Flair move. This is the one that got me into all of the trickery. And there we go, one Negroni. Put it all together. We've got a little napkin spin, little jigger tap, into a pour, a nice tin roll, into another pour, give it a bar spoon twirl, and we're away. Obviously, you wouldn't do that all in one go, but those are some nice little tricks. This will be recorded. You can always go back, and that's pretty much it, guys. What's your favorite quick joke for a guest? Woo. What's the hardest trick I've attempted? There's another one. Candice. The hardest trick I've ever attempted, or the hardest trick I've actually landed? They're two very different ones. I have been behind a bar I have been on stage and attempted 5 object tricks, which gets a little bit difficult. But I think that the hardest trick I've ever attempted is, something that you're not ready to put behind the bar. If you ever reach the point where you're integrating these skill sets behind the bar, don't practice at work. It's the quickest way to get fired. It's the quickest way to piss off your manager, and it just gives us all a bad name. So the hardest trick I've ever attempted was, I remember working behind a bar very early on. I did a trick with a wine bottle, and it didn't go well. It broke in front of a guest, and she was covered in red wine on her 21st birthday. It wasn't necessarily technically a hard trick, but at that point, I wasn't ready to pull it at work, and I forced myself to do it because she was cute, and I fucked up. So that was the hardest trick I've ever attempted. You can go on YouTube and see some other mad stuff, but that one, yeah, that was a hard pill to swallow. I ruined someone's birthday, and when we were talking about, this is the days before Yelp, so I got away with it, I guess. So what's your favorite quick joke for a guest? Oh, now I'm on the spot. Quick jokes come thick and fast. The one I heard the other day in Denver was, why does Noddy have a bell on his hat? Because he's an idiot. Stupid joke. I don't know if you know who Noddy is either. He's an English cartoon, but that's English humor for you. Any good YouTube channels or resources for beginner flair help? So that's from Bartender Journey. There's a lot of good, there's a lot of bad. I think with flair, it really comes down to practice. If you don't watch the 5-minute routines and think that you can break them down into something that's approachable, there are online tutorials that show techniques. You only have to Google them, and they'll come up. I think FlairTube is one. If you look at, I think like TGI Fridays even have like a breakdown of different moves and stuff. So with flair, it's really very individual. It's very unique to yourself. So find some like simple techniques online, and you can go from there. How can bar managers start bringing flair techniques to their team? Tutorials, dummy bottles. I think that, bar managers bringing flair techniques, they have to be, I think that the first thing that has to happen is they have to be, bar managers need to be a little bit more forgiving when things go wrong. We are human. I'm sure that a lot of bar managers hit backspace when they're doing their stock takes, so it's okay for you to drop a jigger or drop a tin or a bottle once in a while as well. So, we make mistakes. I think that that's the first thing that bar managers should do, is if they want to implement flair, is have a forgiving attitude, and just be happy that the guys are expressing themselves behind the bar. Anyone, any questions? You can just shoot me a text or a Facebook, please. I'm always here to help, and I look forward to it. Cheers, guys. Keep flairing, keep enjoying it. Be original. Again, with flair, it's all about practice, learning your tools, and just having some sort of personality behind the bar and some sort of uniqueness, and that will give it to you. So from Campari, thank you so much.